Hello, thank you for joining me in this video. My name is Tamara Rieta and we will talk about differentiated instruction and backward design. As you can see, the title of this presentation is a bit ambitious, Education for Everyone. I hope or I wish that by the end of the lesson you had understood what I trying to say, what I mean. Let's start. From my perspective, all teachers want to create meaningful units and lessons. These meaningful units and lessons allow the production of meaningful learning. Meaningful learning is related to that knowledge that we remember, we acquire because is related to our community or to different topics that are meaningful for us. We can see that knowledge put into practice in our daily life, for example. Right. In order to achieve this aim, in order to create meaningful lessons and meaningful units to promote meaningful learning, backward planning, backward design is helpful, of course. And here I have present you 3 stages. Of course, backward planning is more complex, but here in these 3 stages we can analyze the basic aspects of it. First, we have to identify the desired result. As you can see, we start with the end of the process. We want to know, we have to know what topics we are going to address besides grammar or vocabulary content. The topic is what is going to make all that information sense. The essential questions should be defined at this stage. When I refer to essential questions, I'm referring to important questions about the topic that might promote reflection, self-reflection. It's important to take into consideration that those important questions are the same for all our students. As we're going to see later, it is possible to differentiate other aspects of our lessons, but the essential questions are the same for all our students. In stage 2, determine the acceptable evidence of learning. This stage, of course, is very important because we know how we're going to measure students' knowledge. The activities, of course, can be varied according to our students' needs and abilities. For example, if the main aim of a lesson is to practice reading comprehension, to comprehend a text and understand the dangers of, for example, eating junk food regularly. So, owing to the fact all our students are different, they have all different abilities, we can ask some of them to draw, others to write, and together they can create, for example, a poster. This is an example of how differentiated instruction work there at this stage, in stage 2 of backward planning. Stage 3 for me is the most challenging of all stages because all our ideas, all of the things that we have been thinking about turn into flesh inside the classroom, and it's important to avoid 2 common mistakes that are dangerous for our lessons. The first one is activity orientated. Is when a teacher plans or based a lesson on a series of activities that do not necessarily lead students to achieve the aim, to achieve that essential aim that we state in stage 1. The other problem that we can face is planning based on the course book without adapting the activities to students' needs. We know that the course books are very important resources, but they are not a recipe for success. We need to adapt, we need to recognize which are our students' needs and make all the unit as compact as possible, and all the activities, all the things that are going to happen inside the classroom should be orientated to the results that we state in stage 1. Of course, it's important for our students to know what is the meaning of the activities they are doing. Meaning is very important because it's what is going to motivate them to move forward. So that's incredibly important. Moreover, and I would like to add that the previous knowledge that the students have are the starting point for all the activities that we are going to create from this approach. Now let's have a look at differentiated instruction. I strongly believe that embodies the education as a human right. Embodies education as a human right because it's an approach that takes into consideration the differences between students and try to address those differences in order to guarantee the results of the learning process. Of course, there is no recipe, there is no secret. It's important to assure students' rights, and teacher can differentiate at least 4 classroom elements, but those elements are going to be differentiated taking into consideration students' readiness, interest, and learning profile, as well as cultural background. As we said before, students are all different because all people are different. They can have things in common like the age or cultural background, but it's important to see them as different, as you can see here in the picture. Very good. So, taking those aspects into consideration, for example, student readiness in an English class, that concept will refer to beginners, advanced learners. Okay, you have different levels of English inside our classroom. So let's have a look at the things that we can differentiate. For example, the content. The teacher can adapt the content based on the characteristics that we discussed before. The process, of course, the activities in which the students engage to make sense, or master the content can be differentiated and should be differentiated in order to help students to achieve the goals. The products, when we said products, we refer to the results of a project, a final work, a presentation. Those activities can be or should be differentiated, taking into consideration the students' abilities, previous knowledge, and all the skills that they have been developing during the learning process. The learning environment, it's another aspect that teachers can differentiate. The learning environment is the way the classroom works and feels. Maybe it sounds like an abstract content, but it's important to set in clear guidelines, allow students to choose if they want to work alone or in pairs or in groups, give them some freedom in order to make them feel more comfortable inside the classroom. If we think about the real world, let's say, when we work in groups at work, at our jobs, all of us we are different, and we cooperate to create something new, but based on what we can do, what we are able to do. As you can see here, with differentiated instruction classrooms, we can promote that collaborative spirit from a very early age. Those approaches, differentiated instruction and backward design work together. And according to Tomlinson and McT, these two approaches not only can work together, but should work together, because it's a team for success. And I agree with that. And here you have 7 key points, let's say, about how these approaches can work together. This means the students have different levels of command of the language. So, as we said before, we have to take that into consideration when we create units and lessons and we plan the activities. We should allow students to apply their knowledge and abilities in authentic and meaningful situations. Again, the meaning is very important, and in order to promote a communicative classroom, it is essential to base our activities in real environments. The purposes should be clear when all students understand what they have to do and why. So again, the meaning is essential, and owing to the fact all students are different, it is important to make the unit and lessons have a sense for all of them, taking into consideration those differences. The teaching practice needs to be revised and evaluated. It is important to bear this in mind, because when we talk about backward design at the beginning, we say, okay, in stage 1, we have to stage which are our aims, which are the aims of this unit, for example. And that not necessarily means that we are not going to make changes if they are necessary. So we need to be open, and we need to observe how our students work inside the classroom and make the changes that are necessary to make them feel comfortable and achieve the aims. The teacher provides students the opportunity for exploring, apply, interpret, emphasize, change their minds, and self-assess. As you can see, the teacher is guide students, but the protagonist of their learning process, they are the protagonist of their own learning process, because they explore, they apply, they interpret, and all this work needs to be differentiated in order to assure the students' right to receive education inside the classroom. Technology is very important and should be our ally in addressing different learning styles. It's a very important resource. It's not the only one, but it is incredibly powerful if it is used in the correct way. Differentiate instruction is based on teachers' knowledge and creativity. The teachers need to be creative, because, as we said before, we don't have a secret, we don't have a clue. We have to do our best with the things that we know. Of course, we can study and we can improve our knowledge, but all classrooms, all classes are different, and that's the reality of our activity. Assessing it's an essential aspect of teaching in general, let's say, but assessing in this in a class when we combine differentiated instruction and backward design, it's particularly important. Here I have some questions that will help us to think about assessing. What are we assessing? Why are we assessing? How will the results be used? And for whom are the results intended? Sometimes it happens to us that we create a lesson, we create a unit, and at the end of it, we have to work with a summative test, for example. We have to apply a summative test, and it has nothing to do with the work that we have been doing during an entire month. So assessing is a very, very difficult topic, because it is important that the assessing aspect of our practice should be coherent, in other words. Here I write 3 principles of assessing that I think that are the key ones. Here we have match the measurement with the goals, because we have stage which are our goals in the stage 1 of backward design, and the assessing needs to be coherent with that. We need to consider the whole process. As you can see here, formative assessment should be our ally at this point. And we can also take into consideration this GRASP frame, that it's a kind of compound of all we have been talking about. Well, the assessment should be orientated to the real world goals, be attractive for students. They should be related to a real world audience, real situations. Rubrics and other standard criteria are very important, because, as we said from the beginning of this presentation, meaning is very important for our students, and should be present throughout all the process. Here we have another framework, let's say. I think this is important because it is based in different questions that we have to ask ourselves from when we are creating an instructional planning. Maybe it's not important to remember the whole framework, but it is important to think about it as a guide. For example, how will I help students know what they will be learning? This is a very difficult question to answer. We need to plan how we're going to work with our students, how we are going to guide them through different tasks, activities, or assessments. So it's a big work. Why is this worth learning? Why is this worth learning? Why? The reason, the meaning. Again, it's very important. How will I hook and engage the learners? Units and lessons should be attractive. Otherwise, the students will not be engaged with it. How will I encourage ongoing revisions and refinement? And the last one here, how I will promote the students' self-evaluation and reflection. This is linked with what we mentioned before about those essential questions. Our work inside the classroom as teachers, the position of being a teacher, give us the power to make students reflect and think about essential things that are related to our community, that are related to their health, and many other important topics. So it's an opportunity that we have to take in order to promote good and better citizens, let's say. Maybe it's too ambitious, but it's my opinion. Here I have created a very simple diagram about how both approaches work together. As we said, we have essential questions and the goals from the beginning, when our units or lessons are in paper, and then we have to consider that knowledge and skills that the students are expected to develop. But our students are different. They are not robots, so they have different levels of readiness, learning styles, and interest. And here is when we have differentiated instruction present. Okay, because our lesson plans will be differentiated according to the level of readiness, learning styles, and interest of our students, and we will produce differentiated content, process, product, and learning environment. I think the diagram is quite clear about how both approaches work together. Finally, I want to end the presentation trying to explain why I have chosen that title, Education for Everyone. Well, as you can see here, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it says that everyone has the right to education. Education shall be free, at least in the elementary and fundamental stages. And elementary education shall be compulsory. As you can see, we have here this Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that education is a human right. It's very important. And in Uruguayan Carta Magna, in the Article 6, state states that all the inhabitants of the country have the right of receiving education. Again, if we think about both approaches working together, we see how we can make this human right possible. It's very important. From my perspective, uh, differentiate instruction is not more an option. It's compulsory, because in order to guarantee, in order to make this human right possible, it's essential to differentiate elements of our lessons and make them meaningful. Here is the bibliography in case you want to revise it. And well, thank you very much for your attention and for your time.